Cheers to you, my friend. Welcome to the Cynthia Linox Show. I am your host, Cynthia Linox. Today we are going to unpack another episode of the journey of self-discovery. As time goes on, I'm learning something that's critical. I'm learning that in order for you to discover yourself, to return to yourself, you first must know who you are. And as I talk with people, I am I'm finding out that they don't know who they are. There was a time that I was in that space. I was in that space where if you were to ask me, who are you? I would define myself either by a role, a title, or a label. And that is not who you are, because remember, the moment we come into this world, we are labeled. We are labeled up and down, and we are given rules and laws and regulations and things that we must follow. So we come into that place where we are performing according to the identity imposed upon us. But when you discover yourself, what we're talking about is the essence of who you are. And not everybody, I'm finding, are comfortable with that, in describing who you are, in knowing who you are, and acknowledging the virtues of you, the things you need to learn, the areas you need to grow. It's really an interesting situation, because sometimes when we say things about ourselves, like I would say, I'm a confident woman. Sometimes we're not comfortable with that. Sometimes the things we say may come off as arrogant. But then again, we are not here to people please. And that's one of the things that we must overcome in our journey. So today I am going to ask you, and I'm going to share with you some things that I discovered about myself. And the key question today is, who are you? If you were to ask that question, who are you? Who are you, Karen? Pete, who are you? Susan, who are you? Joseph, who are you? Think of it. Cynthia, who are you? Do you know the essence of who you are? Now, I learned that, at least in my experience, I had to go back, or not even go back, to do a study of myself. I had to do a study of myself. Do you ever find yourself in that mindset? Because in order to discover what my essence is, what's my makeup, what makes me, and not only that, the courage to admit it, to acknowledge it, to recognize those virtues and the areas where I need to grow and who I want to become, because it's not just who am I, but it's who I want to become as well. And what I am finding is that, because I have friends that I admire greatly. I have friends that walk with a confidence that I just admire. I have friends that walk in a freedom that I have not even tapped into. And it's interesting because I am learning. I mean, it's by osmosis. It's when they say association breeds assimilation, there's some truth associated with that. So you always have to, the people that you may have a tendency to want to criticize, they may have something that you can learn from them. So don't be too quick to judge or criticize that person that you may label as overconfident. No, you can learn something if that's one of the areas that you wish to grow in. So we have to do a study of ourselves. You have to go within. When I say, and what in studying myself, I realized that I am the one that set my own code, my own constitution for myself. Because when I realized that a lot of the things, even morality is manufactured. We live under a manufactured morality, and that's why we can go around changing things, excuse me, changing things at will. Because once we realize that society has changed due to development, technology, and a whole lot of influences, we change to adapt. I remember, well, I don't remember, but I've studied that in the 1800s, like the age of consent. I was reading that the other day, and the age of consent was like 12 years old. 12 years old, the age of consent. Sexual consent for a young girl. This is like in the 1880s. And then with time, well, at least I'm talking here in the US, and with time that has changed because for whatever reason. The point is, imagine the moral code at that time and whatever it is that prompted us to change it to what it is today. I think it's like 16 years old or something of that nature. And even so, some states are changing their definition of what that code is, the age of consent. And in fact, as a matter of fact, I read the other day that I think he's a senator from the state of Utah, implemented some kind of a legislation to because he wants to change something having to do with the consent laws. And that's because one of his family members was became a victim of sexual abuse. So you see how things are manufactured. They're made by man. They're made up. There are rules, there are laws that are made up by man. So my contention is, and in order for me to recognize who I am, I had to go within and question a lot of things based on tradition, a lot of things based on conventional norms, socio-cultural construct, all of that. I had to go and change my mindset on all of those details, all of those, tradition. Those of you that are familiar with my show know that I have this thing about traditional rules and laws and norms and things that no longer serve me. And the more I realize that, I tweak, I change, I modify, I alter, I change them, because if they no longer serve me, then why should I adhere to it? I'm not interested in the collective. I know that I'm an individual and I am unique. And that goes for you as well. Once you come to the point where you realize that you are an individual, uniquely made up with thoughts and feelings and emotions and all of that, those are uniquely yours and they are valid. It's what makes your worth once you understand what they are. It's like, people have a tendency to say, we're made up of spirit, soul, and body. And they would say, we are a spirit, we have a soul, and we live in a body. That is cliche as far as I'm concerned. I used to say that also. And one day I started asking myself, as I, again, went into this place to study who I am, I started asking myself, well, what the hell is that? You are a spirit, you have a soul, and you live in a body. And I could not relate to that. As a matter of fact, I was thinking of John Avanzanti, this executive in New York. When I was in college, I used to work for this organization. It's an Italian company, and they all spoke Italian and so forth. And I was the executive assistant at that time. I was in college for John. And when I was hired, they hired me because I was, confident and so forth. But they needed someone with shorthand, shorthand. And that's not my expertise because commercial science wasn't something that I was strong in. I was more in the science-minded psychology. So he dictated this letter and I typed it up, gave it to him, and he read it, and a part of it didn't make any sense. And he says, "What's this?" I said, "Well, what you dictated." He said, "No, I didn't dictate that." And then, he had a little chat with me and so forth. And then he said to me, "If it doesn't make sense to you, it won't make sense to me." I will never forget those words. And, in my mind, I'm thinking, okay, they're Italian and they probably have some kind of codes or something, the way they relate, the way they talk about the product or the situation, the relationship there, the sales. I am assuming that they had some code through which they communicated. And that's what I typed. That's what I wrote, shorthand. Well, I didn't do shorthand. I just kind of like try to wing it. And but he said to me, if it doesn't make sense to you, it won't make sense to me. So from that time, I have always in my mind, if I have something that I'm trying to process or to assess or to reason out in my mind, it has to make sense to me before I communicate it. That's why for me, I don't copy somebody else's book, message, thoughts, ideas, point of view, because that is theirs. I will absorb the essence of the information, the context of the information. And once I can translate it in my mind, the way it fits me, that's when I share it. But I won't share it like verbatim coming from someone else. I guess they call that plagiarism. I just can't do that because with me, I add the emotions and the gestures that go with the understanding that I have of certain subject. So as I go back to think of this whole spirit, soul, and body thing, and I thought, you know what? That doesn't make any sense for me. I know it's cliche, and everybody try to explain it the way they best know, and that's fine for them, but it doesn't work for me. I don't really buy into that whole concept of spirit, soul, and body, because in that whole narrative, what we exclude is one's humanity. We exclude one's humanity, and I don't want to do that, because my humanity is fully me, and I do not present my understanding of the wholeness of me. There are no hierarchies. I have full emotions. I have full feelings. I have lust, my humanness, and I have intuition. And the way I break it down, I'm sharing this with you so that you can figure out whatever works for you. I mean, spirit, soul, and body may just as soon work well for you, but it doesn't for me. And for me is, when somebody says to you, go within, stop getting information from outside, go within to find out what that is. For me, that is honoring my intuition. That is honoring, and where does that lies in my mind? My intuition lies in my heart. When I am about to make a decision or do something or say something or whatever, if there is absolute peace, if there is a peace that I can, sometimes it's not absolute peace, but if there's enough peace where I can move forward, I know it's coming from my heart. And if I don't have that, then it's not peace. Then I don't follow it. And I guess, some people may define that as the spirit. That doesn't work for me. My heart is where my intuition lies. And that's where, your gut feeling, where you get a feeling to do this and to move forward. And, there's no fear, there's no apprehension, there's no procrastination, there's no doubt, there's no worry about the decision you're about to make. Now, so my intuition, I relate to my heart. My feelings, the way I feel, and my emotions. Well, let's put it this way. My feelings, I associate that with my soul. If that's, if you want to pair it up with one of these, spirit, soul, and body, that's where I get my understanding. It's how it makes me feel. Like if I'm desiring something, I pay attention to how it makes me feel when I think about it. And then when I act, it's my emotion. My feeling create my emotions. So all of that, like my thoughts, my feelings, my emotions. And then as I mentioned to you, there's my humanity. I don't discount my humanity as tradition would have you do. When you think about your humanity, and when you think about lust and desire, that's like a no-no in our traditional circle. The fact that you would desire or have strong ambitions for something, that's considered not good, no bueno, evil. In my code, in my constitution, that doesn't exist. My humanity has equal value, worth as my heart, my intuition, as well as my emotions, my feelings, my thought. Why? Because they're all part of me. They are all part of my makeup. And when I am trying to figure out something, if I am, and when you talk about, when people think about lust, let's say, and when I say lust, I mean, it could be lust for anything. It could be lust for food. It could be lust for sweets. It could be lust for sex. It could be lust for money. That's not a matter in my code, my constitution. It's not a matter of good or bad, right or wrong, because remember, morality is manufactured. Those are my codes. That's my part of my personal constitution. When I talk about being sovereign, what I share here is not for the weak. It's not for the docile. It's not for the meek. No. You have to be at a place where you are ready to move forward in your strength, in confidence, being assertive, and moving forward in desiring to know who you are. And when I discover things about me, that is what, and I'm talking about the essence of me, that is what shapes the essence of who I am. When I think tradition, a lot of stuff in tradition. I'm going to do a segment on tradition so that you can understand what I mean when I say tradition, because tradition really wants to keep you in a box. Tradition is to keep you obedient, compliant, conforming to the rules and the laws of the social structure, and it wants to keep you submissive. I reject that. Why? Because I can think for myself. I have a mind of my own. I can think, I can process, I can reason. Critical thinking skills and emotional intelligence. So I reject that whole obedience thing. I think I shared a little bit of that last week. There's certain things that we obey. We obey the traffic laws. Why? For your own safety and for the safety of others. But as far as things where you have to comply and that, I don't subscribe to that at all. So when you ask me, who are you, Cynthia? When I ask you, it's about the essence of who you are, not the fact. As a matter of fact, I asked. Well, I didn't do the asking. Somebody else asked this person, and it was in a public venue, and they asked her, "Well, who are you?" And they said, "Well, I'm a mother. I'm a child of God. Uh, I'm a manager at work." And these are all things based on your role, her role, title, and labels. Like, what does that really mean? What does it make any sense to you? Yes, you are a mother, but if you take that away from you, what is that really who you are? Those are labels, titles, roles that we play, that we are assigned as a mother, a wife. That's not who you are. What if you're a wife today and tomorrow you're not? Does that mean you've lost yourself? No. So when people talk about who you are, when the question is asked, when you ask yourself, really, who am I? Who am I? Now, the way I know myself, there's a whole lot of things about me, but I'm going to share some things with you. I know that I am a force of nature, a radiant force of nature. Wherever I go, there is presence. There's presence to encourage, to motivate, to lift up by my mere presence. It's the essence of who I am. I know of myself that I'm a woman of substance. And it's not just wisdom, it's what comes out from within, the way I respond to situations, the way I deal with issues, the way I figure things out, the way I am able to remain calm in the midst of a storm. So I know that I'm a woman of substance. I know that. As a matter of fact, it's really interesting because I have taken on this project that's bigger than me. It is just bigger than me. And, it came upon me. I didn't go looking for anything. But it has taken me totally out of my comfort zone. Totally out of my comfort zone. As a matter of fact, that's what I spoke about last week. And I was thinking, wow, I'm thinking about that. And here I am. I had already said yes to the project and so forth. And so this project calls for rehearsal before we put on the event. And so myself and some ladies have been rehearsing for this project. Now, this is with a group of ladies that's totally out of culture as far as I'm concerned. They are totally out of culture for me. I'm from Latin America. They're from Central Europe. Different language, different culture, different everything. The first time we met, it was well, I met the producer of the event, and we immediately just hit it off. It was magnetic. And anyway, but when we got together with, few weeks later is when I was approached and asked to join the event. And so when we met with the other ladies, it was great. And I fit in any circle simply because I'm a woman that's confident and I'm assertive. So it was fine. The second time, it was like a warm embrace. The third time, this is all rehearsal time that we've had to get together and do things and blah, blah, all of that. And our last rehearsal, the warmth that I felt from this group of ladies it was like a fire just burning. So once we were done with the rehearsal, I said, you know what, ladies, I've got to tell you this. I have come to love you so much that when I'm in your presence, and that's, being vulnerable, but I was speaking my truth. I was speaking my truth and being vulnerable, but at the same time, authentic. And I said, I need you to know that I feel so much love from you, because I am the only one that don't speak the language that they're speaking. And what I have done, I picked up this app and I learned some words, and they were just so happy that one day I came in and I, said a few words, and they were like, oh my God, they were just so impressed with that. But that's just what I do. It's like if I'm traveling to another country, you pick up some words and you try to learn a little bit of it. So I was sharing with them how happy I am and how wonderful I feel in their presence. And I have really come to love these ladies. And look, they said, no, 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 no. It is you. It is you. And, they were all like pointing at me. They said, no, 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 it's because of you. It's because of, so they just threw it right back at me. And they were saying, no, it's not us. It is you. It is because of the way you are. It is because of how you are. It is because of who you are. So, sometimes when people tell you about yourself, you've got to believe them, because they are also, honoring something in me. They also saw or are feeling something from me. As I said, when I show up, it's to encourage, it's to uplift, it's to motivate, and it's just to really pour out of my essence to whomever I'm around. I love hard and I play hard. So if I'm your friend, I am your friend. If we have established and I'm not saying, hello, amigo. No, no, no. I'm talking about if we are friends, where we are on the phone and we're talking, then I am a real friend that you can trust to be sincere all the time. So they threw it back at me. And I came home and I was sharing it with my husband. I said, I cannot even explain how I feel when I'm with those ladies. It is a feeling of warmth. And as a matter of fact, I was sharing with them, I said, your culture is something else. And I had read up on the culture, and it said that, they're pretty much conservative and, a little reserved. But when they bring you in, you're going to eat with them. They're going to want to serve you a meal. And it's true, because they're so warm and friendly and deep in culture, things that I appreciate. So they threw it right back at me, and they said, it is not us, it is you. But obviously it's them too, because the way they have embraced me, and it wasn't really something that I was looking for. I was just looking to rehearse, get the choreography correct, so that whenever the event, that I can do what I need to do. But so I wasn't looking to be liked, but even amongst them, they the respect for each other and the cooperation, it was so collaborative among them, cohesive kind of relationship. And I think some of them were meeting each other for the first time. It was such a beautiful encounter. And I said to my husband, I said, wow, in this chapter of my life, it is so rich in relationships, culture, conscious awareness, things that I'm learning about myself and about other people, and just relationships in general. And I'm learning so much more about me, the passions that I have. And that's one of the things that I know that I'm a passionate woman. Like I said, I love hard, I love deeply, and I play hard. Within that whole sphere, I see my passion. And when I like something, it's funny because whenever my husband and I, whenever we go out to dinner, he would, if we go to the same restaurant, I order the same thing all the time. And he would say, honey, he says, that's kind of pretty boring. Why don't you order something else? And I'm like, no, I order what I like. If you're going to a new restaurant, then of course, obviously you're going to order something new. But if we go into the same type of restaurant, then I'm going to order what I like because that's what I like. That's what my palate's like and so forth. So it's getting to know who you are. You're not easily swayed. You're not easily convinced by others. And the reason for that is because I am evolving and building my own self constitution, the codes that applies to me, my codes. And you can't be afraid. You can't be afraid of, in my mind, I know, again, like some people say, well, aren't you afraid of your morality, good, bad, right, or wrong? No, because morality is manufactured. And why should I go by someone else's idea of what my life should be like, of the things that I should think about, believe, and to be governed by? No, absolutely not. You create your own. And within all of that comes your freedom to be yourself, your freedom to express who you are, your freedom to speak the words that you want to speak, your freedom to go wherever you want to go, and having that sense of freedom. Freedom is not just, oh, I'm free. No. It's freedom of expression, freedom of being, and freedom to break away from traditions. Because I'm telling you, the moment you come out, the moment you were born, you are given a script. We all are. We're all given a script. We are given a script to follow. You don't come out here to explore and explore the world and learn things and be creative and develop your own ideas and all that. No, absolutely not. You come out, your slap is like, okay, you're awake, and you're given a script to live by. You shall do this, you shall do that, you shall do this, you shall do that. You shouldn't do this, you shouldn't do that. You must do this, you must do that, and you're given a script. And the script is that of the collective. You do like everyone else, and you will be fine in that culture, in that society, among that group, in that circle. If you try to come out, then you're either ostracized or called a heretic or nonconformist, whatever it is. You are labeled a lot of things, and that's one of the reasons you can't go by the labels that's placed upon you. You know, the way I think and what I share, I could easily be labeled as rebellious, but I wear that badge proudly because it is true. I do rebel. But I'm telling you something. The one that rebels publicly is not the one that's dangerous. The one that's dangerous are the people that are doing things in the background and setting up laws and stipulations and construct and all that in order to control and manipulate the masses. I just don't want to be fitted into that group of the masses, to be controlled and molded and shaped to perform the way everyone else does it. It's like, that's the way we do it. No, okay, that's fine. Let's do it this way. As a matter of fact, I put that kind of not burden, but that kind of change on myself whenever I am trying to figure something out. I'm like, okay, let's do it differently. Let's do it new. Let's do something new, something different, something innovative. And that works for me. See, my friend, you have to create your own. That's what's going to get you that place. Once you get to realize and acknowledge the essence of who you are. Now, certain things, I know I'm a kind person. I'm kind. I like to show kindness. When I'm driving, when I'm out in helping people, of course, I try to be wise when it comes to, in today's environment, you have to be super wise in a lot of ways. And I know that I am generous. I like to be able to give of what I have, whether it's my time, my substance, my resources. I am generous. At times, I am empathetic. I wouldn't call myself an empath, no, because I am not always empathetic. I am not always willing to assume to take on your pain so that I can better understand you. No, I will listen, but I'm not, and I know that of me. And it's really interesting because years back, I know like on social media, that was like trending, being an empath, and that was like trending. And I thought, wow, that's great. And then I used to almost think that I wanted to be that until I start really digging in. Are you really that? Is that really who you are, Cynthia? And then I decided, no, I am not an empath. I will be empathetic toward someone with a situation, depending on what it is, who it is, and so forth. But I wouldn't label myself as an empath. And back then, I know that some people that I know, they just took pride in labeling themselves as an empath. And then I realized, no, but I had to come to terms. No, you're not an empath. That's not what you are. You are empathetic given the situation, just like I am sympathetic given the situation. This whole thing of forgiveness, I don't subscribe to that. I don't forgive. That's just me. Again, that's one of my codes. I don't forgive. I detach. I have to detach. And I know the whole idea is, and this is so cliche, people say, forgiveness is not for them, it's for you. No, well, if you have emotional intelligence, you try to govern that. You try to govern those emotions. If someone does you wrong, you use your emotional intelligence to reason and to figure things out and to govern your emotions. Because you see, forgiveness is a construct. Forgiveness is a religious construct. And who knows? That's why sometimes people go through healing for years when healing can be a decision you make like that. You don't have to drag, and some people may need it. Some people may need to go through years of healing and therapy and all of that. There's nothing wrong with that. But for me, that's why I don't subscribe to this whole ideology of forgiveness. Forgive. That's a religious construct. 70 times 7. I don't want to hear that. That's not me. That is not who I am. That is not my makeup. And I say that unapologetically. I don't forgive. I detach. And I use my emotional intelligence to as a coping mechanism to find out what works for me so that I can move on from whatever situation it is. Detach. And when I say detach, because that's another study that I did on myself. When I say detach, because does that mean no more access? And based on the way I have seen myself, it doesn't necessarily mean that for me. I can detach from you because I had a situation where someone kind of closed the doors on our relationship, and a couple of years later they came back, and I opened the doors. Of course, at that point you have limited access, but because I'm kind and generous in my relationships and so forth, yeah, you listen and so forth, but the relationship is not the same, and that is okay. We never bridge it back together, because another thing about me, I believe in burning the bridge. Burn the damn bridge. Burn it. Some people say, before you burn it, make sure you learn how to swim. You know what? The thing is that when you are without the access, or when you are without a way to cross a bridge, you become creative. Why? Because you know that in order to get from point A to point B, you must have some kind of a way to get there. You must have some kind of a substance. You must have some kind of a uh, options to get there, whether it's walk around, it may take you 40 years, or it swim it across if you can swim, or whatever it is, call for help and wait for a helicopter to show up. You can do any of that. It doesn't matter. The point is, wait for someone to show up with a canoe, a boat, a ship, a cruise. You figure it out. Why? Because if they say, don't burn the bridge, what does that imply? It's fear. It's all fear-based. Why? Because just in case you need to go back. No. If there comes a time that I need to revisit that situation, then by then there should be such an advancement, whether it's a day later or 2 day advancement, technology, science, whatever, so that I can communicate back and get back there if that's where I needed to go. But in most cases, to close the door, to burn the bridge, it's because you're going to a better place. That's how I process it in my mind. And you are able, what I'm sharing with you, so that you will know that in order to get to know yourself, you must do a study on yourself. When I was in school, I love the science of the mind, psychology, and but when I was in high school, I loved geography, and that's why I love to travel, because you learn about all these places and cultures and all of that. But to study yourself and to know that you are constantly evolving, you're constantly growing and evolving. So you can't shut the door. You can't close the book. You can't end the chapter. The chapter remains open because the season remains open. And you continually dig and search and come to the conclusion. The question is, like John Avanzetti, my boss of, years back, he says, if it doesn't make sense to you, it doesn't make sense to anyone. It has to make sense to you. So the things that you are doing, or the way that you see yourself, it has to make sense to you. Words you use, cliches you follow, the status quo, traditional rules, conventional norms, has to make sense to you. The fact that everyone is doing it this way in society doesn't mean you have to follow. Once you understand your individuality and your uniqueness, you'll realize, no, wait a minute, I don't have to follow that way. No, absolutely not. You don't. Give yourself permission to step into your uniqueness. There are a lot of people, when I used to share a lot on religious deconstruction, there are a lot of people that they are so immersed, embedded into religious doctrine, that even though they call themselves free, you're not free, because there's one thing, what I share, what I share, I know that it helps, it motivates, it encourages, it inspires, and it's transforming lives. And I shared before that I've been out of religious indoctrination for the longest time. And my life, the way I am, with my own constitution, the own codes that I follow, work for me. Now, I don't need to go back and rehash and tell you about that and that over and over and over in order to help you, because guess what? You have the ability, the same way I figured it out, the same way I discovered my awareness, the same way I became consciously aware, step by step, because of the insight. Again, my heart, my intuition, that nudge, that's where the universe lies and speaks to me. You know, when they say go within, you sit and you know, and you feel that nudge and that unease feeling. You get that, and if you have the courage to follow that, that's all you need. So I don't need to keep reminding you over and over and over and over. Why? It'll set me back. No, I need to push forward. I need to go ahead. I need to go ahead with my own life and evolve and learn new things and create new things and find myself in other circles and meeting people and learning from others and doing two things. I need to get on with my life. I need to get on with my life. I don't really want to spend time telling you the same thing over and over and over. No, because that chapter for me is chapter number 210. I'm over here in, 2025. I'm over here in 2025, chapter 2025. So it's you giving yourself permission to grow, and don't be afraid to make changes, to make changes that suits you, that fits you, that are uniquely yours. Don't be afraid to break the rules. Rules are made to be broken, and that's why, again, they have the, just look at stuff that are, a constitution. There are changes that are enacted, and because society is changing, as you experience cultural and societal changes, today we have technology and AI and all of those features now that are replacing, even at work, they're replacing a lot of humans. Why? Because we have built systems that can take care of producing things in a greater way, sometimes with more accuracy than humans. So you have to change and modify and adjust and improve things. The same with your life. Otherwise, you'll stay stagnant. You'll stay stuck. And it's just like I say, a comfort zone, don't kid yourself. You're stuck. It's not just comfortable. You're stuck. You are stuck. And even though, as much as I would like to think of myself as creative and innovative and, adventurous and so forth, I don't, when some things happens to me, I kind of get, kind of like my brows raised. It's like, wow. And then it makes me even question myself. And then, if it's something that I think I'm going to like, I'm going to go for it with all my insecurities and, because, we all have certain level of insecurities. One of the things I used to say that I'm fearless. Well, I may be fearless in certain areas, but there are other areas where I have apprehension. That's just another way for softening the definition of fear. I'm just apprehensive. I'm just cautious. No, you're damn afraid. You're afraid of that you're not going to do it right. But then you have to, again, use your critical thinking mechanism to set the positive in motion, to set all the motivation and the encouragement that how to do it. As a matter of fact, I when we were rehearsing the other day, and I could not join for a recent Zoom, and I said, no, I have plans, I have other commitments and so forth. And they said, well, you know what, you know how to do it. You are good. I see you. You know how to do it. You're fine. That was news for me. That was news for me because, as far as I'm concerned, we are our biggest critics, and I am so mindful of that. So sometimes when you hear something from someone, you have to believe them. If someone tells you something about yourself, believe them if it resonates with you, or if it's something that they see, they perceive, and they're telling you this about yourself. Believe them and start thinking about it. Do a study on it and think of it. Is it really me? Okay, what are they seeing and why are they seeing it? And then you unpack it. And if they use words, look it up. Do a study on yourself. So when somebody says, who are you? You're not going to say, well, I'm a mother of 3 kids, or I am David's wife, or I am, an aunt at this, whatever. I'm a psychologist, or I am, whatever it is, whatever role you play. That's not who you are. Those are roles. They're titles. That's what they are. Labels that are placed on you. Imagine if you were to fulfill all the labels. People label you, and they're going to continue to label you because people look at you and they judge you. Some good and some are bad, or not favorable. But that's not who you are. And the people that label you, they don't even know who you are. The important thing is that you know who you are. You know who you are. You know the essence of who you are. What makes you think? What are your passions? What are the virtues that make you up? Your character. What makes you worthy? What establishes your worth, your value? And again, when you come up with those definitions, when you come up with those virtues, it's not by someone else's permission, affirmation, approval, or any of that. No one needs to validate the way you see yourself. But the way you see yourself, that's what's going to take you back to discover who you really are. The way you see yourself, that information is what's going to take you there in your journey of self-discovery. And once you discover, wait a minute, I'm a fun-loving person. I like to, have a good time, and I have my own swag. When I see myself, I'm a whole vibe. I am a whole vibe. That's how I see myself. When I step into a place, again, I'm a whole vibe. No one can take that away from me, because and it's not even on purpose. That's how I attract people and become friends with people. It's because of the energy you emit. And once you know that, my friend, once you know that about you, whatever it is, you may be a little more subdued like me. I know that I am not created to be obedient, to be compliant, to be submissive, to be conformist, to conform with, rules and law and all that. And I did that for a period of time, very reluctantly from the inside, because it didn't really resonate. I've had that from even when I was a little girl. I was in boarding school and got kicked out of boarding school 3 times. And the last time the first time they took me back, my dad was able to pull some strings. They took me back. Second time, he did the same thing. The third time they said, nope, that's it. No, she's just too mischievous. We don't know. And, when they brought me back home to, at home with my parents and my younger siblings, put me in a local school there in my country, and I did so well. But before that, they had me going to psychologists and all that kind of stuff because they thought something was wrong with me. No, I was just missing my environment. And I guess I had a strong desire to just break out and be myself. And when I was there, I did so well in school. And then a few years later, I had my debutante and all of that. Life was good. It's almost like I did it and got my way. But that was my makeup. And now years later, I come to see that, all of that there was some validity to that behavior. That's me. And so I go back now to that little girl, that discovered who she is and just, today it's totally different, but call it what you want, rebellion, whatever, then I wear that badge gladly, unapologetically. People pleasing, saying yes when you really want to say no, and, trying to be liked, trying to fit in. That doesn't work for me. That does not work for me. I'll tell you, in a minute. But that's my last corporate job, I was in a position where I had to say no to top executives and people, and I did. And I grew in courage and strength and knowledge, understanding. My delivery, I could say no in 1,000 different ways without hurting your feelings. So, my friend, the point is for you to get to know who you are, but the essence of who you are, not by role or labels or title. When you ask yourself, who am I? The moment you start saying something that's a role, a title, a label, that's not it. Go within and learn the essence of who you are. The essence of who you are. It's important that you figure that out. It's part of your journey, and it brings you closer to that place. Again, there is no ending in this journey because we are all evolving. But it brings you closer to a greater place of self-expression where you can express yourself with the freedom that you desire, because you weren't born to be locked up in a cage, a mental cage, because a mental cage becomes a mental slavery. And then, when you follow traditions and all that, it's like you tighten the shackles of that mindset. You tighten the shackles, your own shackles. That's not why you were created. You were created to be free, to know who you are, to have self-expression, and to live your life unapologetically. And with that, my friend, I'm going to leave you so that you can sup on that and you can unpack it and process it the way that best fits you and the way it best benefits you. Now, every Thursday at 2 p.m. Central Standard Time, we have a date right here. And if you can't meet me here, then you see these icons over here, Facebook, LinkedIn, and YouTube. You can access this show 24/7 and view it. Also, if you wish to drop me a note, I'm a life coach and for the untamed. And when I say untamed, or people that are ready to really break out of their cage, you can contact me at info@thecynthialinoxshow.com and drop me a note and we'll chat. I have a 30-minute complimentary session where we chat to see if we have the right chemistry, vibe, energy, and then we take it from there. In the meantime, amigos, I'm going to say hasta luego, ta-ta. Have a fantastic weekend, and I will see you next week in time, place, with a vibe. Ciao, amigos.